Triple Shot Mindset.
People always ask me, how do you do it? I think that was my purpose, was to be a father and break a generational curse.
Yeah, I love that. What's the curse you broke?
Generational toxicity. My grandmother, I was really close with my grandmother. My grandmother used to tell me stories about her as a kid and how she was very poor in Alabama. And to the point of where she said they actually wore potato sacks, which is crazy to think they made clothes out of those. Yeah. And she would tell me these stories about my grandfather. I never knew my grandfather, but he died at like 40 years old in a drunk driving. He was drunk and whatever. I don't know. Yeah. But she would tell me like these stories, and it wasn't like, it was towards the end of her passing, and she would tell me these stories about like things that he had done or whatever. And I thought to the way my dad was with me, and my dad did a lot of mean evil. He was a very aggressive. He hated his life, and he transcended that on me. And so he constantly told me I was never good enough. He constantly told me I would never be anything. And anything that I did do that he deemed as good was because of him. And there was a story about why I should be grateful that he passed on those genes or those genetics to me, because the only things that I did do that were good for him or in his mind was me athletically. And so for me, I subconsciously, as much as I hated my dad for many years, lived in what my dad taught me. As much as I wanted to be anti my dad, I was my dad.
Yeah.
And I had to wake up. I went through my second divorce, and not to Bible thump or to be spiritual, but I feel like God sometimes puts us through trials and tribulations so that we can find our ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
And when I went through my divorce, I went through it. My daughter was like, I don't want to deal with this. It just was so much. And I had to look in the mirror and I had to say, it's not everybody else. Yeah. You're your dad.
Oof. That was in your second divorce, you realized?
Yeah.
Not that, so there was a prior
Yeah,
marriage.
there was a prior, no, well, you're jaded. One of the things that I've learned, I just was on my Uber ride over here. I was in the car with a guy 69 years old, and we were talking about life. And I said, I was sexually assaulted as a kid, and that led me to this and this and this. And he goes, well, I'm 69 years old. You're still a young man. He said, I was 62 years old whenever I stopped using drugs and alcohol to mask my sexual assault that happened to me as a kid. So it's one of the...
Wow. This was in the Uber ride here?
It was
You're having this deep conversation on the way. I love it.
One of the things that I found is with that and realizing that I was my dad, I said, I've got to do something. And I had gone to therapy and stuff before because I had dealt with depression and different things, but you never really stick with it. It's kind of like one of those things that we never really want to get to the root of the problem until we really want to get to the root of the problem. So what do? We go just long enough. It's kind of like your gym membership.
Yeah.
you want to get abs after a divorce or a breakup or whatever. You want to get flex. You want to go to the gym. But then when it starts getting hard and you're like, you know what? I'm stressed out. I don't really want to do it. You quit. Yeah. Right? We don't really want to look in that mirror and be honest with ourselves. We want to run from it. Yeah. That's the truth.
Absolutely.
Until we can't anymore.
Yep.
And so God interjected.
Yep.
And so I went to therapy, and my therapist was like, hey, so, first couple of sessions, she's like, okay. So she's asking me questions about my childhood. And I'll be honest with you, I had no idea. I couldn't
remember?
No. Okay. Bits very narrow. So if I was to say, hey, where'd you go to grade school, or where did you would kind of have an idea. Like you couldn't tell me every kid that was in your class, right. But you could tell. I couldn't. Like, did you have a family pet? And I was like, I think I had a dog. She was like, I could see in her mind, she was like, and because I grew up in chaos, I'm very good at reading people. Yep. Very good. Yeah. And I'm 99.9% spot on with it. And so she about third session, she said, hey, I think there's some underlying issues, and I want to try this certain type of therapy with you to see if maybe we can unearth. And I'm from Alabama. So I'm like, well, what kind of therapy? We're talking about shock therapy. I ain't into BDSM. You ain't hit me. There's no belts, like whatever. And so she's like, no, it's called EMDR. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, okay, I'll try it if it'll help. And so, I was dealing with depression. I was going through a divorce, it was during COVID. Yeah. Business was crazy. It was just, what I mean? The
world in chaos.
My daughter had run away to Vegas. She had tried to commit suicide twice. When I say going through it, she hated me, and so all of this is going on at one time. And I'm just like, yeah. So anything that I could do to help unearth whatever, right. I can't keep running, and I can't keep jumping to the next woman, and I can't keep having kids. Child supports ain't cheap. Mm-hmm. And neither
are the fun options are going out the window. Yeah.
Divorces aren't very fun, Yeah. And so when I went, it was unearthed that I was sexually assaulted as a kid. And I had no idea. I'll be honest with you. I had absolutely...
Until that therapy, you did not know.
Until that EMDR.
Oh my goodness.
I absolutely had zero inclination. Wow. I just knew that I lived... Now I know. Yeah. I lived in a constant chaos. I lived in a constant, what can I do? What can I maneuver? What can I do? What can I say to get through the day? That's where I was at. And so when I found out I was sexually assaulted, this sounds really crazy, but it actually gave me some sort of peace. Yeah. Because, not that I want to make excuses for all of the things that I did, because I have to own those things, right? But it gave me some knowledge of what I was doing and why I was doing it. And so it was about our second MDR session. She said, well, does this all make sense? And I'm like, well, what? And she's like, you've slept with hundreds of women. You got at least 5 kids by 3 different women. You've been married twice. You're a fighter. You've always been a fighter. You do all of these things. You were I was sexually assaulted by a male cousin. Mm-hmm. She was like, you were subconsciously trying to prove your manhood through these toxic traits. Right. And so then she went into about how, because I was over-sexualized as a kid, I attached my only self-worth and my only value to sexuality.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I jumped from relationship to relationship and woman to woman and all of these things, because that was like, this guy was just in the Uber ride. He said drugs and alcohol were his thing. My drug and alcohol was sex. Yep. That's what I was taught. So I slept with anything and every woman, didn't matter, because it gave me some sort of euphoria knowing somebody wanted me enough to give me themselves. And the only thing I've got of value is that.
Wow. Holy moly, starting us off deep. Thank you. That was amazing. So if I may ask, because it's your process, how did that realization then change your daily life following that? Like, what did you implement, or where did you even start after? Because that's kind of a bombshell in your life.
It was an absolute, well, you got to think, I'm going through a divorce. It was a pretty gnarly divorce, which I probably shouldn't have been married in the first place. This will go to what my life was and how comfortable in chaos. My second wife started working at my office. I was like, hey, I think you're hot. She was like, I don't date people at work. 12 days later, I had her in Vegas and we were getting married.
Wow.
12 days.
12 days.
Wow.
That's impressive.
I mean, hey.
You put in the work.
So exactly. So with that being said, it was a huge, I was going through the situation with my daughter, which I had to take personal responsibility with that, because I was not the best parent. I did what I thought was being a good parent, or what we're taught as being a good parent, but I projected my shit on her. Yeah. And so I told her what she should and shouldn't be doing. I dictated what she should or should not be doing, which is toxic as fuck. And it was the stuff that my dad passed down, command, demand, and whatever. So you take that and how that shifted, it gave me a little bit of freedom, because now I can look in the mirror and I can say, okay, now we're starting to get to the root of the problem. And once you get to the root is when you can finally start to heal. Yes. And so, and it's a long, deathly process. Sure. And so I started looking at personal things and toxic traits that I had, like learning that whenever I got stressed or depressed, I don't need to text some chick that I used to date to see if she could come over to try to numb. I need to sit there and ruminate and look in the mirror and be like, hey, no, you got to own this. You got to go through this. This is a process and you got to do it. And so I continued in therapy. And then another bombshell drops. So through this, I deal with a lot of UFC fighters. I deal with a lot of MMA fighters. I do jiu-jitsu. I had won worlds. I had won Pan Ams. I'm what everybody would deem as the ultimate manly man. I'm this tough guy, and you don't want to. And so you take all of that, and then you find out you were not only sexually assaulted, but it was by a male. Yeah. And you don't feel like you're constantly hiding in shadows, and you're in fear that people might find out. And if my friends find out, who are fighters or whatever, they're going to think I'm gay. They're going to think I'm less of a man. They're going to think that I'm weak. I look inferior. And so I still battled with that. But eventually, it's like AA. I tell people, until you can kind of say, hey, this is what happened, and be comfortable and confident in this is what happened. I didn't ask for that. It's not my fault. It just happened. Yeah. And I have to adapt from that. So it came out in a multitude of ways of being conscious of myself, but honestly, for me, being conscious of my children. Because my driving force is to give them all of the things that I needed and wanted, security, love, them feeling like I don't have to do exactly what dad wants or says for him to be able to love me. I let them fail. And some people are like, oh my God, you let your kids do that? And I'm like, they're kids.
You have to, though. You have to. If I keep telling my kids what to do and hold them to a certain standard that my dad held me to, then the poor kids are just going to constantly be trying to please me. And the moment they're going to be themselves is a moment that everything's going to crash down on them. So I never hold their hand. I try to let them do whatever they want. Fail. I think failure is the best lesson in life. Now, my failure in my marriage, that was a wake-up call. Just like certain people, they wake up, certain things happen to them. They get bad news from their health, whatever it may be. For me, it was waking up one day and my ex-wife saying it's all over. And just me and her had a conversation. We said we don't want what happened to our parents and us to happen to our kids. So let's shake on it. Let's make a promise that from now on, we're going to let our kids be. We're going to have an environment for them that they can flourish, whatever that may be, and for us to be supportive of them and each other, because I don't want them to grow up thinking mom's a bad guy or dad's a bad guy. And that's what my parents...
Or that they have to choose.
That would be the hardest, most unfair thing that I could ask my kids to do. That's why sometimes when something happens, let's say it's my ex-wife's fault, certain people in my life, not that they don't love me or they don't support me, in their head, it's like, oh, this is your opportunity to use against her to distance the kids from her a little bit more and bring them closer to you. But I say, nah, everyone else would do that, but I don't want to do that. And it's constant, and it's very difficult to have that awareness every moment of your life, for every conversation, every reaction. And I know certain people say something to them to get a reaction out of them or get a reaction out of me, and I don't. And like, how could you not smirk even if something, let's say, bad happened to your ex-wife and they're going to take your side a little bit more? I said, I don't want that to happen. So even down to a smirk, body language, I'm so aware that it became part of my DNA. So now when I deal with my kids, ex-wife, whatever, that's still a unit. Even though we're not a family on paper, it's still a unit.
And ultimately, the thing that people miss in that whole portion is something that I tell my ex all the time. Ultimately, you think you're hurting me, but you're hurting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing where, for me, don't get me wrong, we all have ego. Anybody that says they don't have ego is a liar. Don't trust them. We all have ego. But I've learned, like Kenny Rogers used to say, know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right?
We live by those words.
Exactly. And for me, it is realizing that my kids, for me, are my ultimate driving force.
Me too.
That's beautiful.
For me, I grew up without a self-worth, right? And so people ask me all the time, like, do you think that you'll ever know your value or whatever? And I think it's like you said in DNA. I think I was told so much and it was ingrained in me so much that I wouldn't be. I don't know. God is great, and I pray to him every day that hopefully one day I will, but I struggle with that. So my only reason for wanting to be here is to ultimately be a light to my kids and be there for them. I don't want them to have to carry my burdens on them.
Yeah.
And if I offed myself, or if I do, just go off or whatever, ultimately, who does that affect?
Yeah.
I'm taking the easy way out, but it's them that's hurting. Yeah. And that's where a lot of people, so I commend you, because a lot of people are like, they'll be like, oh my God, you can get extra. And I'm like, but for what?
Yeah.
And teaching, essentially, I've never been a parent, for the record, but I have been a kid. So I can speak to that experience. I think when you teach your child to hate the parent, or that you hate the parent, you're actually teaching your child to hate 50% of themselves.
Ooh, yes.
And I learned this growing up. I come from a family of 5 kids.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are my stepbrothers, my mother's first marriage. And between her dynamic with her ex-husband and with my father, I witnessed on both sides when they would all play the game with the kids to be the favorite or speak badly about the other parent. What that does to you internally is go, okay, the aspects of me that are like my dad, I can't be that around you. The aspects that are like my mom, I can't be that around my dad. And it creates all this fragmentation inside of you as an adult. So actually, when you're respecting your ex or your current spouse or your partner, you're teaching your kids it's okay to be whole, because you're half me and you're half them. And if I hate them, I can't hate them without hating you.
You hit that is powerful. And so that's one of the things like that I talk to my kids about is, their mom is a wonderful woman. She's a wonderful mother. She's very old school mindset. And that becomes one of the problems when you start becoming enlightened and when you start seeing things for what they truly are. It also makes everything else difficult. Yeah. Dating, because now when you see red flags, guess what they are? Red flags. Mm-hmm. Right. Used to, I would see a red flag. Oh, it's orange. Yeah. No, it's
pretty.
That's not red. It's pink. It's not.
It adds color to the room.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You accessorize with it. So I've learned that I talk to my kids, and I, especially my 8-year-old. She's very intuitive. She's very smart. But my ex is in an old school mindset of, you know what, you're acting out, I'm taking away your iPad. You're acting out, you don't want to do this. And this isn't me talking bad on her. Yeah. This isn't me being like, I'm the better parent. Yeah. It's just a different light. So I look at things now and I question things like, why?
Yeah.
Is she doing this?
Yeah.
Like, have we sat down to ask her what makes her feel like she needs to do this, or this? Because if we don't do that, we're going to be in the same situation that we're in where we're older. And that's not, and am I saying that me doing that is going to make everything okay? No, it's not. But I try to give them an emotional awareness to understand and know that if you need my attention, like my 8-year-old, she'll do stuff. And I notice one of the things that she'll do is she'll do things when she wants attention or she wants you to pay attention to her. She'll do things and act out. Yeah. And so I go to her and I'm like, hey, you don't have to do that. If you want my time or you want my energy or just come to me and say, hey, Dad, I just need you right now.
Yeah.
We can watch Barbie. We can watch whatever. Like, we can go to Crumble Cookies. She's like her dad. She has a sweet tooth, And so it's important to be that way because ultimately, like you said, when you teach a child to look at that parent another way, you're teaching them to hate themselves.
Yes, that's right.
I think for my kids and enlightened kids, I guess your kids too, the way I look at them, it's like I don't look at them as kids. I look at them as people who haven't just matured to a point that I would accept them as adults.
Yeah.
Right? So when I talk to them, I see them fighting. Like, let's say one of them takes away the other one's purple dinosaur, right? And they're having a fight. Daddy, look at me. Oh, he just did this. I sit them down and I ask them why, as many times as I have to get to the root cause of the problem. So why'd you do that? Because he's pissing me off. Why did he piss you off? Because it's why. And I get to a point, that's the last why I ask. And it always comes down to my attention for my kids. And when they say, for example, we don't like this person, we don't like mommy right now, we don't like you right now, all you gotta do is ask why. As many times as you have to, sometimes 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. And they may look at you like you're crazy, like, Dad, you keep on asking why. I'm like, because there's more to that's where that came from. So I ask them so many whys, and it gets down to the root cause of the problem. And when I look at myself and I do something, let's say one time I'm human, I lose my temper, for example. As soon as I go to bed, I go in front of my mirror and I stand there, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 11:30 at night, and I start asking myself why. And I have to be honest with myself because I'm looking myself in the eye. I'm like, this is your soul speaking. Tell me why. And I get down to something that's bothering me and may have nothing to do with the kids. It may be a client canceled yesterday. But I have to understand why these things happen and catch them before they become an issue with me and my kids, with me and my relationship, whatever it may be. You have to have the awareness and the strength to stand there in front of the mirror and ask those questions. So next time, you guys, ask the why. No matter how ugly it gets. And some people stop at the first why. Oh, because, they're fighting. No, that's not the answer. Why are they fighting? Why did you become so pissed off? What triggered inside of you that brought up that emotions? So for me, as you said, dating was very difficult because every red flag you see, you're like, oh, no, stop sign. And then you find someone finally that has worked on themselves and is aware. And that's what I look for in my relationships, even in my work relationships, my friends, the ones who try to bring me down, not on purpose, but the way they talk, they bring me down. I cannot engage with them anymore. I cannot be friends with them. Yes, I can have a beer with them, but as soon as the conversation starts going from baseball to women, from baseball to kids, from baseball to my stupid ex-wife, to my stupid kids, to my stupid work, I walk out. And you have to.
I've also learned to get away from yes people.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, is to get rid of the yes people. Yeah. Because we want to be validated. Yeah. Like, we want people to tell us. My friends, my core group of friends that I have now will tell me when I'm right. But even more important, guess what they're going to tell me?
When you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
I love friends like that.
That would be the best kind of friends. Mm-hmm. I have friend circles who they just validate each other's bad behaviors. Oh, you were so right in that, girlfriend. Oh, you did. I'm like, wait a minute. No, one of you have to stand up and just stop this stupid cycle. Just like you did, just like I did. We have to have the balls to stand up and say, no, this is not right. What you're doing is wrong. What Dad did was wrong. What my mom is doing is wrong. And that stops that stupid generational trauma. So I know my kids, when they grow up, they're not going to have all the shit that I was carrying. My mom wasn't talking to my dad for 35 years. She was holding it inside of her, which I don't blame her. I mean, yes, but Mom, you had 35 years to get over it. You had 35 years to come to a birthday party with the kids there. Why do you keep avoiding it? Like, you're avoiding the truth. Just get with yourself, have that conversation with yourself, forgive the other person if you have to, but you're doing it for yourself.
I haven't spoke to my dad in 5 years, maybe 6. And the thing that I've learned is some people are incapable of changing.
Yeah.
And God is good. God is powerful. And I'm not saying that some people, but I'll tell you this. We a lot of times get our fingers chewed up by trying to hold open doors God's trying to slam.
Yeah. Ooh, someone write that down.
And I'm just telling you, we do.
Great.
And so my dad, when I started going to therapy and I came to my dad, and I learned that I had to, number one, start setting boundaries. But number two, I had to quit doing what I've done all these other years, is let people that did me wrong not be held accountable.
That's right.
I don't mean be held accountable by fight me, because that's not going to turn out good for you. I just mean let's be able to talk and talk about why or who or what, because maybe you have something, and this is one of the things that I've learned, is to have grace and mercy, because I want grace and mercy, right? So I came to my dad not out of, you did this to me, how dare you? I came to him with grace and mercy, and I said, Dad, you did some pretty gnarly things to me as a kid. You made me feel a lot of things. I love you. And this was at the first part of me starting therapy. And I want to try to fix things, but we're going to have some talks that are going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. But I need to have those talks. And I need you to be open to having those talks. He basically, in a nutshell, told me, you should be grateful for me. You wouldn't be the man that you were if it wasn't for me. And I wouldn't change anything. And I got off the phone, and this was that I had just started therapy, and we want nothing more in our life than to be loved and wanted by our parents. Yep. That's where it all goes back down to. Boom. That is the real root of the things. And that's why I said I will be the destroyer of that. And so I got off the phone with my dad, and I cried like a baby. Yeah. I cried like a baby, because I thought, okay, now I'm finding out all of these things that happened, and now I'm understanding. So we can start getting some peace by healing. Yeah. And so I got off the phone, I cried like a baby. I waited about a month. I said, maybe he's going to sit with it. Maybe he'll change. The common thing, when you come from trauma and you think, if I love you enough, you'll finally love me. If I tell you all the things that you want to hear, you'll eventually love me. Like all of these things. And so I was like, And so by this time I had come out and told people I had been sexually assaulted or whatever. And I called my dad and I said, hey man, I just wanted to reach back out to you and I want to heal this thing, and and he basically told me same thing, except this time he told me, you need to quit crying about being sexually assaulted and get over it. It happens to a lot of people. You can't live in the past. You need to just get over it. Wow. And it finally clicked. And I said, you know what? I love you. The sad thing is, when you die, your legacy will die with you. Mm-hmm. My kids will never know you. Mm-hmm. They'll never speak your name. Mm-hmm. I love you, but I released this, and I don't want this. Yeah. And I got off the phone, and I was at peace with that, because I knew that I had done everything that I could to try to heal not only myself, but ultimately my thing is I want to help others. Right. And ultimately I felt like that by me healing, maybe it could help him. But I had to.
That doesn't happen. I've tried. I think as myself as the enlightened one. Now you guys can laugh at that, but when I first moved into this house after the divorce, I slept right next to those stairs that you saw, right? On the floor, no furniture, nothing. And that was by design, because I want to go through the pain. I want to experience everything. And I had to come to acceptance that certain people don't want me, certain people want me, certain things that I have in me need to be changed or improved or whatever. And to this day, when I hear people saying that I wanted to help my mom come out of the dark place and be enlightened. I wanted my brother to be on the same page as I am. I wanted my friends to, and they don't want to. They do not want to. They'd rather sit in the discomfort of that whatever crap that they've made for themselves than to elevate and see the world for the way it should be. So I've tried this with my mom, with my dad, somewhat with Kevin. Hey, let's do this. Let's think differently. Let's start being aware of certain things that come out of our mouth, understand other people's intentions. They don't want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, I'm the one who's going to get hurt because I keep trying to pull them up and they keep on hitting me, right? So just let it be, right? The people who have hurt you in the past, let that be. And I was telling my mom this, and she said there's a Persian proverb or something that, let's say, you go to buy a can of black beans. Not that we're Cuban like you are, maybe like green beans, right? You go buy a can of green beans. And if you open it, you're going to see green beans. You can't open it and expect black beans, right? And she said, people are the way they are, okay? Unless they want to open up and change and all that things that me and you did, and you, they're going to be the same that they are. So don't expect anything differently. So that one phrase got me through so many expectations from people, so many hurt feelings. Because I look at, for example, my dad. Good guy, I love him. But he wasn't present when I was growing up. Constantly, he went inside his room, closed the door up. Oh, I need to work. Okay, we hung out with mom. I got to go on a business trip. I got to do this. He was never present, right? And I kept on saying on the phone to my dad, every time I spoke to him, I love you, Dad, love you, love you, love you. And my mom one time, she said, this was like 5 years ago, she said, why do you keep saying I love you to a man who didn't fulfill his obligation as a parent? Why do you keep saying I love you to a dad who was this, was that, was never present for you guys? And I said, because I accept him the way he is, right? And she said, well, I haven't been able to move on for 40 years or 35 years from that divorce. I said, Mom, the same advice about the can of black beans you gave me, you got to take it yourself. But a lot of people don't want to take the advice. They want to just dish it out.
Yes, right? That's...
It's also different when it's your wound. Mm-hmm. Like, I can apply the black bean rule to anyone who's not triggering me. But as soon as you meet someone who is perfectly designed, maybe by the divine, to poke your wound, that whole black bean rule goes out the mother effing window. God forgive me.
It could, but what if you have the awareness to say, I'm not going to get triggered?
Well, I think that you can't out-aware your truth.
I know.
You can only watch it happen and go, oh, shit, this is about to happen.
But if you give yourself a moment, 2 seconds to
if you can.
Just digest it for a moment and then say, okay, I'm going to go here, but I want to go here.
I'm just saying sometimes the enlightened approach is not an option. Sometimes we can be so enlightened, but you said something earlier, which was it was in a moment of rock bottom that you had to be ready to look at yourself in the mirror. But it's almost like there's a switch. And if it's flipped up, you can start growing and having all this awareness and be enlightened. And if it's flipped down, you cannot. And I don't know that we can trigger other people to flip their switch. I don't think it works like that. No. I think that's on divine time.
Yeah. I think that is 100% on divine time. And I think both of you were right on what you just said, right? I think there's a lot of times that I choose to do the right thing, but I had some gnarly trauma stuff, right? So when I get triggered, it sends me into a complete panic, because it was so intense that certain things trigger me. Now, it depends on what it's it could trigger that because we all have different wounds. I have so many wounds that, you know, it's like that scarred up lion or whatever. Yeah. I have so many wounds that there's different scars. So like there's some things that you can pick at and it's like, okay, you know, I'm going to choose the higher. But there's some things that you, and it's like a gaping wound. That's right. And I'm like, you know what? Whoo. I'm gonna have to get on my knees and pray about this one. Because sometimes I grew up in a prison household, right? And so
what's that?
So a prison household, I grew up, this will tell you how ratchet I came up. So my full name is Richard Clinton Foshee. The Richard came from my uncle got caught selling a trunk full of, I think it was heroin. It was a drug transaction. My mom was, I think, 7 or 8 months pregnant with me, and my dad was there or whatever. And they were all in on it. But when they got arrested, my uncle took the charges because my mom was like 7 something months pregnant with me or whatever. And so to reward him, I guess, they named me. So the Richard part of my name was my Uncle Ricky. So I grew up, you know, when he got out on, you know, parole or whatever years later, you know, I was like 5, 6 years old. He came back and you know, snitches end up with stitches. Like these were common things. You don't touch my stuff. Still to this day, I'm really weird, and I have a roommate. I'm really weird about my stuff. Like if you ask me to touch something or use something, cool. But if you touch my stuff without asking me, that's like, it's like a prison mindset of certain things, you know, so that's kind of.
Got it. That energy was in the household.
Yeah, it was always. So like I started using weed, probably I was 10.
Wow.
You know, by the time I was in like middle school or whatever, my uncle would pass out. I would, you know, from being drunk, you know, I would pinch off of his stash, go to school because it was cool to sell drugs or whatever. And I look back at all of those things now, and I was in these ghettos and all of these things. It was because I don't know if I wanted to be caught because maybe then somebody would help me, or if I just didn't care about life and I just was like, I'm just going to be down for whatever and run the streets because it doesn't really matter to me anyway.
Yeah. So why'd you drop the Richard?
It was attached to negative energy. I would take it completely off my birth. I call them BCs. You can tell I got a bunch of kids, birth certificate. But I left it on there because it is part of my identity and it is a part of who I am. But it's attached to a negative situation. And, you know, I found out later through therapy, you know, after the situation with my dad, I had come to my mom and I said, hey, because this was her people that did this to me.
Yeah.
And I went to my mom and I said, hey, you know, this, and I didn't want to tell her because they idolized my uncle and my grandfather, who was a career prisoner on my mom's side. So this goes back to the generational toxicity, right? And so my mom and them grew up very ratchet. Like my mom said, you know, or my aunt told me one time, like that he would come home drunk in the middle of the night, get all them up and line them up in a hallway with a gun and be like, who's going to die tonight?
Wow.
And so like, that's what they that's what they grew up in.
That's
and so
incredible trauma.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I tell my mom, And I didn't want to tell my mom because it was her people and she had idolized. And I still was in this mindset of, I want them to love me. So I don't want to tell them something that they're gonna.
It'll make them uncomfortable.
Yes. Or that they're gonna switch it around and be like, oh, that's, whatever. And so this is when I had to stop EMDR, is when this happened, is I go and I tell my mom, and my mom starts crying. And this is over the phone. And I'm like, it's okay, it wasn't you, She's like, no, but, it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it's not your fault. Like, there's nothing, these are your people. It was her, it was my cousin. So it was like, I don't know. It was her cousin. I don't know. Ever how it is. And I'm, she's like, it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it's not your fault. It's, And she said, no, it is my fault because I never thought they would do it to a family member. And it was at that point I knew my mom, who was supposed to protect me, who was supposed to make sure that none of this ever happened, had me around the wolves.
Yeah. And she knew they were wolves.
She knew they were wolves. And she, to this day, it's kind of like how you said, some people, she, to this day, I stopped talking to her about a couple of years ago. And so to this day, she'll tell you, well, I let you go over there with my mom, which was my grandmother, because they all lived with my grandmother. My grandmother was the enabler. And I thought she would protect you.
Deferring ownership.
Everything.
Deferring responsibility.
Yeah, everything, her and my father. And that's where, I don't know, I've learned that they tried to do the best that they could. Their best just wasn't good enough for me.
That's right.
And it's not good enough to keep cutting me.
Yeah.
That's right. I love that.
And so, that's when I went through that is when, EMDR got a little bit more deep, because as I started unlayering these things, you find out more and more. Yeah. So it's like you take this bombshell of finding out this and you get liberated and you're like, oh my gosh, man, I finally realized why I was making all these decisions. And now I can stop. And then you find out your mom knew. Yeah. And then your dad tells you get over it. Yeah. And you're like, what? Yeah. Like, is this even real life?
Yeah.
And then I start going to EMDR. And now I realize that my uncle, who I'm named after, like, I realized that he had set me up to be sexually assaulted. And I don't know if it was trading for drugs or if it was trading for money or whatever. But I started remembering, as you start unpeeling, things get like, and so, I went to therapy and I had remembered like him driving to the end of the street. And like with EMDR, I don't know if you've ever done it. It's super, super gnarly. It's like, have you ever seen the movie The Matrix?
Yeah.
Okay, so where you get dropped in, that's what EMDR is.
Wow.
And so you're sitting there and you start it's these little paddles, and I don't know how, but it makes it to where your brain all goes into one thing and you can remember. So all those drawers in your back of your brain that you took all this stuff that you don't want anybody to know, you hide it in, it unloads it. Yeah. And so I was in therapy and like, I remembered my uncle driving me to the end of a street, and I remember the street. And with EMDR, you could literally, I could smell, I could see, I could feel me being that 8-year-old kid. And I remember my uncle getting out of the car, and my cousin that was the pedophile was in the car still. And I remember my therapist, like, they had to pull me out because like my heart was just about to explode, because I was that kid, and I could remember and I could see and I could feel, knowing that fear that he was fixing to do something to me that there was nothing that I could do or say anything about.
Wow. I'm gripping this cup so tightly it might break in my
Sorry.
This is amazing storytelling in addition to the message behind it. So questions for you, if I may. You'd recommend therapy then?
100%. Okay. I feel like it's difficult. I think a lot of people go into therapy with the notion of, most of the time people go into therapy when they had a divorce or when they had a breakup or when they have a problem in their life or they're dealing with financial stress or they're dealing with all of those things. Then they all of a sudden want to go to therapy. But as soon as they bail, right? Yeah. It's like we talked about the gym membership. They bail because, again, people don't authentically want to get to the root of what it is. They just want the easy. We've become this society where we want the easy, quick fix. Yeah. Right. We want somebody to tell us. We glorify all of these people on social media that give us, and nothing against David Goggins or any of these Tony Robbins, who we met, that's how we originally met. Nothing against any of these people and their message and how they help people, because I'm sure, but at the end of the day, therapy, none of these things work if you don't get on your knees and you don't pray.
Yeah. There is a surrender component that is essential.
Until we can get on our knees and we can ask God to take the wheel and be comfortable with that, people can tell you stuff. You can lead a horse to water, but at the end of the day, until you understand that God has a plan and a purpose for you, even then, therapy isn't going to all the way work until because God knows who you authentically are. Mm-hmm. You can't hide from him.
Of course. You
can't run from him. You can't, and that's not to say like he's the boogeyman, but he is our creator.
Yes.
And so therefore he knows. Yeah. And so, therapy 1000%. I think everybody should go. I think we've made in our country, and that's my podcast, is one of those things that I try to preach, is that because we've made it so taboo, mental health.
Yeah.
We've made it such a hindrance for people to get help that people don't get help. And what ultimately ends up happening, people are killing themselves.
Yes.
People are scarring their kids up, whether they think they are or not. They're scarring their kids up. And then, so it's like we have these people that now are like, oh my God, these kids these days. Guess where it came from?
Yeah.
Taught traits.
Speaking of Tony Robbins, I remember we met him coming back from San Jose, right?
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Going there. It was going there. I had to fly back emergency. My 8-year-old was being born. I had to leave early.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most turbulent flights.
Ooh.
But speaking with this guy, we had no recollection of why they didn't serve us drinks, why the peanuts didn't come around. But like the last 10 minutes, we stopped talking for a second. I'm like, why are we shaking?
I remember that.
One thing that Kevin and I always talk about is your grit. You know, grit is one of those words that not a lot of people have, not a lot of people can manufacture, but you have it, right? And every time me and him, like in business, in personal life, something happens, we somehow talk about you. We talk about Clinton's grit.
Yeah.
And I remember Nona and I bid on a dinner with a celebrity one time.
Yeah.
And it happened to be Glenn Stearns. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
So Nona and I went to have dinner with Glenn Stearns and his wife, and he talked about grit. And I'm like, wait a minute. The one person that I know that has the grit is you.
I appreciate that.
Because you go through all these tumultuous things, ups and downs, whether it's personal, business, whatever it may be, but you have grit. You stick with it. You come above the water. And as you said, 75% of the time you may not feel like it, but you're still going to show up. So that's the one thing that I've stayed friends with you for that long of a time, is because I see on social media, every time you're going through ups and downs, I can tell, but you're always on the high road, right? Whether it's with your kids, whatever's going on. High road, I'm like, think to myself, this guy needs to be on this podcast because I need to see him again, because even though we live like 10 minutes apart, it's been, 5 years?
Yeah.
So grit, where do you get that from? Is it your upbringing, the grit? Is it the survival mode? What is it?
Honestly, I would love to tell you this great story. It started in survival mode from an early age. I look back now, I've always been in survival mode. And until probably 5 years ago, when I went through and started doing therapy and whatever, did I not realize what the difference between reality and chaos was. When you grow up in chaos, it sounds really crazy, but when you grow up in chaos and so much, number one, you become numb to it. And then number two is you're comfortable in it. And so when I started healing, to be honest, the hardest part was stepping away from the chaos. Because chaos is time, money, and energy, and it just wastes the day away. Whereas when I have peace, I have to look internally.
Yep.
Right.
I have to take an assessment.
Yes.
I have to say, hey, you know what? I need to fix some things because it's always, we're always evolving.
Yeah.
I've had so much stuff that's happened to me throughout my life. That I've learned that God keeps me here to be a light to other people.
You are that light you want to
Thank
be.
you.
And so
I never will see it just because I was told so much I wouldn't be it.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. I'm the same way. When people give me compliments, I mean, I do it as a joke in front of you and Kevin. I'm like, yup, I'm the best. Da, da, da. But honestly, when people tell me you're an inspiration to me, or this, or that, I'm like, no, come on, that's just, the forces that be. It's not me. And I cannot take credit. And when someone gives me credit, when someone buys me a gift even, I have a hard time accepting it.
I'm sorry, why?
I have a hard time accepting it. And I tell myself, what did I do to deserve this? Even if it may be a $50, dinner, I think to myself, what did I do to deserve this?
I've cut off my nose to spite my face 10 million times.
Same here.
10 million times.
Yeah.
But
I think it's for me, it was an upbringing of me and my brother, mom and dad in Iran. And there was a war going on, so we would go down the basement every night. There were bombs flying all over. So for me, it was trying to be the light of the party, the 4-person party, everyone's like doom and gloom and what if we die, what if this and that. And I always had to be the funny person. I always had to make fun of the situation.
Me too.
Yeah, and that translated into me being a people pleaser later on in life.
Me too.
The yes, sir, yes, you're right, yeah, just to be liked. And I think God was saying, okay, you're either going to change out of inspiration or out of desperation, right? And for me, I knew I had to change, but I didn't know if my ex-wife, my brother, my business partners, whatever, they were going to accept me, the new me, or they were going to just, kick me out. But it happened out of desperation when shit hit the fan, and I had to think to myself, okay, why am I people pleasing? Why do I always have to be the funny one? Why do I always have to be the one that fixes things? Why can't I accept, let's say, someone's compliment? Why do you have so much issues with it? If someone told me, oh, you're the best guy, you know, da-da-da, I'm like, are they saying that to be nice? Do they mean that? I'm not, you know, how can... And I think going through therapy, listening to all these people that we all listen to, Tony Robbins, all those guys, at one point you start owning it. You start saying, you know what, I am better. I am, not better, but I am more evolved from an emotional standpoint, from a mental standpoint. Yeah. I can see things better. And if you gave me 100 people, I would probably be the one who would stand out the most. I don't want to go with the flow. I always go against the grain. Not just because I want to be difficult, but something inside of me doesn't want to be ordinary anymore. And once you understand that you're no longer ordinary, you know, you're no longer like everyone else, you're extraordinary, then you have a better time accepting those compliments from people who give it to you and they really mean it. So I've tried to work on that, try to see, okay, if, let's say, she gives me a compliment, I have to think for a second, think, okay, she meant it, or was she joking about it, or what if she didn't, you know, mean it the way she said it? But ultimately, I've noticed the more I accept praise or whatever people want to give me, and I accept it with grace, I think the more I have to give the same back to people. But not in a, I want to kiss your ass kind of a way.
Yeah.
I want to be accepted kind of a way, but in a real, authentic way that you can give back. And so that has worked for me.
So for me, it's something different. For me, it was always attached to, if I give you something, I'm going to want something in return.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up in, whether it was sexually, whether it was, you know, parents' approval, or whether it was whatever. Hey, I'm going to pay for you to do this.
So transactional.
But you're going to owe me.
Yeah.
And so that's where it comes from for me, is I don't really like going back to the prison household. You know, if you accept something, you're going to have to give something in return. And I stopped wanting to make everything about transactional. So one of the things that I learned is I just give, not to people please, but I give because I have boundaries and now I have limits, and I do. But I give and put out into the ether and into the universe good vibes, good energy, but I don't ask for anything in return. If it comes to me, it comes to me. And if not, not. If I need to struggle another day, I need to struggle another day. If that's God's will,
right,
I submit to it.
Yeah.
If he wants me to shine, I shine.
I think the transactional thing messes people up a little bit.
1,000%.
I for my kid's birthday last weekend, we ordered pizza. Came out to $180, $180 for 8 pizzas. I'll be on the expensive side.
Pizza, like,
I don't know.
I ain't that good pizza.
Fresh Brothers. Fresh Brothers, all right? So anyway, the guy comes to deliver the pizza. He's from Uber or whatever. And he comes in and he opens the door, beat up car. It's like a 1996 Toyota Camry, really beat up car. And he's missing his left hand, right? So there's just bone here, right? And he tries to get under the 8 boxes of pizza and lift it. I'm like, no, I got it for you. He's like, no, I got it. I'm like, so we start, and I said, what happened to your hand? Just, I got to ask. Can't not ask. He said he lost it in war when he was 12 years old. He's Syrian. And he said a bomb blew up in my house and I lost my hand. I also lost my mom and dad and brothers and sisters, but I'm the lucky one because I have the rest of my body. I'm like, holy crap, right? So I said, so I was looking for my wallet to give him, $20, $25. And I reached to my wallet and I didn't have the $20 I was looking for. I said, do you have Venmo? He's like, just pray for me. That would be your tip. I'm like, man, he's like, I'll pray for you, you pray for me. So he hung his head down, he started praying for me. I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta pray for him too. So I prayed for him, I prayed for his family, for his life, whatever it may be. And I reached into my wallet, I I had $100 from my mom. She had given me as a birthday gift. I'm like, here you go. Here's your $100. I gave it without any expectation of anything, right? I just gave it to him. I hugged him. I said, go buy yourself something nice to your kids, whatever. He's like, this is the biggest tip anyone has ever given me. So yesterday, me and the kids were in Target. We were walking around. And Daddy, I want to buy that. And I'm like, just like keep it to like $50 each. Daddy, like, we got to put a limit on this spending, right? Daddy. So we're walking in one of the aisles. And I put my hand on a shelf there, just waiting for them to do their thing. And it hit a piece of paper. And I picked up, it was a $100 bill.
What?
And I thought to myself, holy shit. Not that I gave to receive. That's not the reason. But I think because the authenticity of giving, it wasn't transaction, it was just, I want to give to you. It came back to me. I'm like, holy crap. Like, there was no reason for a $100 bill to be on a Target shelf in the kids section, right? No. And I quickly folded it, put it in my pocket. I didn't tell my kids. I didn't want them to say, oh, now we got money, let's buy more. But that kind of stuff has happened to me before. Whereas when you give freely, whether it's a compliment, whether it's something of yourself, your time, whatever, it comes back to you. But if you think transactionally, I'm going to give so I'll receive, never happens.
Never.
Yeah. So I'm all for authentic personalities, authentic mindsets, authentic emotions. Let it come out. So when you do pray, when you do ask for things, it comes from deep within. It doesn't come for another purpose.
That's the only time it's going to work.
Right.
Triple Shot Mindset.